Hey, here I am, and I hope the audio on this thing is working. I'm working off my little laptop now, and this camera's, oh, look here, that thing was out. There it is. Anyway, I'm working off this camera stand and camera that I have here, and I can move it around just a little bit. And I'm working on my friend, my Facebook friend, master craftsman artist, Gail Obler, sent me a how-to manual for this entire lamp, because she's built many of these, and boy did that help me out, because I was kind of going in a sort of, I think, the right direction, but I was going to get there at a much more difficult route than I was taking. So she kind of helped me out and put me on the right path. So I've already soldered in. Her plan is actually to solder these branches to the tinned crown prior to waxing the mold. Get that done. Well, that would have been, I didn't have the crown yet when I started the rest of this. However, that's the way to go, because as you move around the crown to try to get it set where you want it on this lamp, and I'm going to lift this up a little bit so you can see where I'm at. If you move that crown around back and forth, you're trying to get these sections, and the lamp has 5 repeats. We've talked about that for weeks. So I would call those sections. So this is section 3 right here. I just arbitrarily numbered that, so I can kind of keep track of where I'm at with these branches. And I've added some branches already. You can see, let me get down there. You can see where I've soldered them in. I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew that, we'll get into some of the technical stuff here. And I'll move this thing over when I get ready to solder that. I'm going to solder that for you. And I hope I have as good a luck with that as I have with the other pieces that I've soldered. And I should mention that there's some carving going on these pieces. And for instance, here's one right here. Oh, we got the camera too close. There's one right there. Well, that's this one here. Like the one we're about to put in. Fortunately, on this one, I didn't really have to do much cutting. This area right here. See if you're in focus there. I hope you are. Looks, well, I don't know that. I hope. Let's see. I don't want this thing out of focus. It does look a little hazy. Maybe I'm too close. Let's back out just a little bit here. Bear with me till I figure out how to use this stuff, because once I get it figured out, we'll all be better off. Hang on here. Now, there we go. Oh, you know, that does look, oh yeah, that's much more clear. So anyway, I didn't have to trim much here. Over here I had to trim just a little bit of this one. And see where it's cocked out, where it looks like, oh, you didn't get it trimmed quite the right angle. Not a big deal. That'll fill in with solder so fast. That's not of any consequence. I mean, it'd be better if it fit right next to it, but better in what respect? There isn't really one. And where I'm deciding where to put this, angle this piece of lead down, is there's an 8 pieces of glass go in this window here. Now, as crazy as it sounds, I think there's a piece of glass that goes in that hole right there. So anyway, that's where we're at with that. So let me see if I can turn this where you can get a good look at it. And the first thing we're going to do is put some generous flux on there. And man, I'm here to tell you, if you ever get in a position there, somebody's working on lamps, the tinning of this outside perimeter of this brass crown was not, I did not think it was easy. However, I put a lot of effort into it, and man, is that paying off in this soldering, because the soldering is going really good. And I say that, and I'll have some kind of blurb here. I do have a couple of little things I need to clean up on the solder. I'll do that when I flip this thing over. Got a little bit of solder in a couple of places, as well, you can't see what I'm talking about. Anyway, running under the edge of a piece of this lead here. Well, I'd rather not have it down there. I just want it across the face. Anyway, and what's going to happen there, if it can get in the way of a piece of glass that has, or I shouldn't say has, needs to fit under there. So it's better if I don't have that. And I have a way of getting it out of there, but I'm not going to demonstrate that right now. So let's see what we're going to do here. Oh, I want to clean that iron off. Just a little sponge over here. And here I am. I spoke about soldering irons before, and it's like calling somebody's mother an ugly name, because there's people that just swear by a particular iron, and boy, I mean, that's what they're going to use. And hey, that's great. And so I won't get it right now. Oh, here it is. So I fired up that Weller SG100, which is the, you know, the Chevy of all the stained glass irons, and I've got the big tip in it. So I wanted it good and hot, and so I got it going real good. And at the same time, I thought, well, you know, people kind of look, oh, I don't know. This is a little light iron. This little, it's called a Hakko, or HAKKO FX601. And so I thought, well, this thing, you know, it works good for me. I like it. I use it on lead and everything else. And I thought, but you know, I bet it's going to be too light duty to handle this heavy brass. Well, so I thought I'll give it a shot. So it has a temperature controller on it, which is in Celsius, so I don't know what that means. I could look it up. I had a little cheat sheet over here to tell me, but I don't really care. I know where I want to use it. So I've never used this iron wide open. So I've got it running wide open because I thought, well, I'm going to need it up here on this stuff. And this is no joke. I could turn this thing down. And in fact, there have been a couple of instances soldering these other ones on. I'm heating this brass up first. Just get it nice and warm. And this iron is so hot, and the brass has been tinned so well. I don't want to get in your field of vision. The brass has been tinned so well that it's taken that solder real easily. So now we're draping over to the. Now this is lead with a thin coating of copper on it. Now here's where I get into trouble. If I get too much solder down in here, it'll run down in there and fill that cavity where that glass needs to go, and I really don't want to do that. Although it's not the end of the world, it just creates that ran off on all the way down. See, the iron is actually a little too hot, so now we got to be real careful because the iron is so hot. And I say, well, why don't you turn it down? And you know, that's a good idea. It's just too hot. Yeah, who ever heard of that? Too hot on a soldering iron. Okay, I turned it down. Now we're not going to immediately get that effect, but see, I'd like to be able to just dance across here and drape that bit of glass to kind of look like. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, to kind of look like a branch. You know, extension of this branch coming down. So now here we are on this side. And I want to be careful here, or it'll just run right down the side, and I'll have to add it again. I'm really working hard here to not go off the edge. Let's see if I can draw that back up. Get it out. Can I get it out? Oh, I got it squared off. Okay, man, leave that alone. Okay, there we are. All right, let's go. Can you see me? You see what you can see? Yeah, you can see me right here. This is going to be over here. I've got these 5-power visor magnifying glasses on because I want to see exactly what I'm doing. Now, around toward you, where you're looking from, I can't see. Let me back in here because I don't want to drop any solder down in that hole. There we go. Okay, we got out of there. Now let's come over here, and we're dancing around up in this stuff where I can't hurt it with heat. Because, that was real close. That just hung right in the air for that glass to come back into that hole now and fit in there. I wouldn't even, now what, if you'll notice, I'm going to wait just a second or two here, a little longer than that, to get back in there, because that's hardened, because I do not want to disturb that. So let's go back and just put a little something over the top of it. Okay, right up here. There you go. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm not fooling with that. Okay, now we got to go right here. And look at that hole there. That's no big deal. We just drop, genius. We're supposed to drop a piece in there and do something like this here. Across there, just bridge it across. That dropped down below the lead here. And if I'll just leave that alone, I'll show you a little trick, maybe I may be able to just slip it out of there. Man, I got to be careful. We're going to run right. We got so much heat. We're going to run down in that. Oh, we got it. Okay, we'll come up here and bring a little up in here and just make it look good. There. I wouldn't really fool with that too much. Your patina's going to come over the top of this, and it'll look like the end of a branch. I think we'll leave that alone. And now the idea now, because this is lead, yeah, you can see me doing this. Little rubber hammer. Okay. And now I'm anchored down so well all around here. And all I want to do here is just make that. And I've looked already down here, and it's conforming to the cartoon pretty well. There's two pieces of glass got to go in here, one there, one here, and then this section in here. And I can, there's the cartoons back up under this edge right here. I can move this around a little bit because it's been soldered to the crown. So here's another one I got done. I'm kind of, instead of doing it a section at a time, I'm going to where I started out with, I think, with a small piece. I didn't really know what to expect. How's this going to solder up? What kind of heat do I need? You know, is this? I've got a mixture of a flux I like to use, 2 different fluxes, and so, you know, how much trouble am I going to have? Well, the next step here, I'll just show you this next step, and then I'll go on, and you can salvage. Now, this one's going to require quite a bit of alteration. What I'm going to do right now is just drop that edge there down into the lamp, and I'm a little bit low, so let's kind of pull that up a little bit and come back up. Now that's about where I want the bottom of this thing to be, and it's much more important for this part of the lid to fit the cartoon than it is way up in the top of this thing, because if I just bring these branches, I'm pushing down right there, if I just bring those branches up to where they actually, you know, are made, like I'm going to come down here and put that, well, that doesn't fit the cartoon, and so there's some, you know, chopping and cutting and rearranging that needs to be done to bring these branches basically all, if you look at all the branches on the whole lamp, and that would depend, again, I want to mention, on the crown itself. The crown can move around across the top of the form, oh, I don't know, quarter, half inch or so, one direction or another. Not much. You can spin it around and get it to where you want it to make these work, but that's about all the movements you're going to get. So in the one place that you saw me solder over here where I only had to chop one leg off was, it's so far an exception. I've had to do a little more altering, but I'm trying to maintain this part of this cage or whatever that holds the glass in the same place, because that's all of this glass has been cut in respect to a pattern, and that pattern's imposed on this mold. So if and therefore I'm going to need this lead to conform to the pattern and to these pieces of glass a lot. I'm going to need that a lot. So that's why we're working so hard here in eyeballing. This is kind of my guide, is I eyeball through here and see what I need to do up here to cut these off. And there's a considerable amount of cutting that needs to go on here, which is going to alter then that piece of glass that's going to go in there. And according to Gail Obler's, she wrote an article about this for a magazine, and according to that article, if I remember correctly, she adds these pieces of glass after this thing comes off the form because they're so hard to get to. So anyway, that's something I'm glad to hear that. I'd probably be trying to figure out how in the world am I going to get that in there under that lip with this here without coming off the form, and I'm not. What I will do, I should mention this up front, as soon as I get all these branches on here, I'm going to lift it back off the form and clean up any mess I have under. Maybe I don't need to do that. Yeah, why am I doing that? That might be I'll read her manual, but that might be an unnecessary step because you don't need to clean it. You're going to have to turn it over at some point anyway, and some of the glass will have to be put in at that time, so there's no use to go to all that trouble to get it off and then mess around with it to do what? to do something you're going to have to do with it again anyway. So just thinking out loud, I shouldn't probably do that. Anyway, I'm going to cut this one up and solder it. I don't know how many do I like. 7, 8. I got 8 more to go out of 20. So I'm happy with that. I'll get that. These will go in this afternoon. It's just a little working a little bit more easy than I thought it would. It is easier than I thought it was going to be. Okay, thank you, and I'm going to shut this down and keep working. Bye now.